Bear down, Bears fans. Another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat, the designer, is that Johnny Handsome back in the building?
Finally.
It's been a little while.
Been a long time.
You doing all these remotes, making that big money out there. You're out in the public.
Pat, sorry. You're the one that was out at Hallis Hall for 27 days in a row. You're the one that's gone. They wanted to move me. They couldn't move somebody else. So they put me out on the hiatus.
Is that what happened?
I put me on the pay no mind list.
Well,
That's exactly what ended up happening.
I was trying to give the people the best coverage of training.
I'm just letting you know. Don't tell me. I've been here all the time. I'm in the next room when you're recording in here all the time.
You get a little lonely just hearing my voice.
You've got to remember that. Yeah, I had nothing to do with it.
I'm glad to have you
but
back.
I'm here
on the
now.
Pod.
I'm here now.
He is here now. I'm so glad to have the good kid back.
And it's not bad. Because, it's not bad because I probably haven't done one of these in 2.5 months.
Yeah.
And at least we've got 5 games under our belt. So we don't have something small to take a look at. We've got something macro to take a look at, not something micro. So.
Absolutely. And I think there's some really big takeaways we can get out of this podcast.
Can we?
Hey, we want to also let Bears fans know to get to your local Chicagoland Verizon store and enter for a chance to win a trip for you and a guest to see the Bears play in San Francisco. I believe that's with this gentleman here, actually.
I will be there.
Oh, boy.
Carmen DeFalco will be the only one that stays for the game, though.
Oh, is that how you guys are doing?
Oh, right. Because I've got to come back here and do the post-game show. So, yeah, but we will be out there Thursday night. Then we'll be there all day Friday and Saturday for a lunch. And then I'm shooting back here on Saturday night. Carmen stays throughout the game, and Carmen will participate with you during the game. But I will be on the getaway, the specific portion of it where we do our show, and when we have lunch on Saturday.
It's going to be a great time.
Yeah.
If you want a chance to go out there, enter by October 20th. No purchase necessary to enter. Must be a legal U.S. resident of eligible zip codes, age 21 years or older. Void where prohibited. For official rules and full details, visit www.espnchicagocontest.com. All right, we got that out of the way. Now
we got the business aspect of this gone. Yeah. You want to talk about how right I was on Gervon Dexter Jr.?
Oh, good kid. Good kid. Let's start there.
Is that position number 1?
Let's start there, good kid. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. I have been banging the drum that this guy has surpassed Jalen Carter. I am so excited.
Well, that's not true.
You don't believe that yet? You don't think he's there yet?
No.
Lance felt the other way, so I like to hear the opposite perspective. You think Jalen Carter still ahead of him?
Lance has played football for a long period of time. Yes. Lance can have his own opinions, and they can stand on his career and what he's done and what he's done. Yeah, he's not, but he's getting to where we want him to be, which is a great thing.
Right.
Last year, he had to get the stench of Florida off him. What I mean by the stench of Florida was that two-gap system that he had played down there. It took him a while to break out of that. It took him a while. It just didn't happen overnight. Matter of fact, Zach Pickens was ahead of him for the better part of 8 weeks of last season. Yeah. And then Gervon Dexter started to get a little bit, and then we started to see some signs. And it was those signs that made you feel good once he was, in the offseason program, once he was going to participate, once he had the confidence of being an NFL lineman for 1 year, that maybe he'd be able to make that next step. And he obviously has been able to make that next step. But, yeah, he's not better than Jalen Carter. That's the type of silliness that we get carried away with a little bit, but it's okay. Let Gervon Dexter be who he's going to be.
Right.
And he's got a chance to be Santana Dotson, which is what I always said is what he could be. Jalen Carter's more of a Warren Sapp, but Santana Dotson was a wonderfully effective player that could play the pass and the run equally as well. So if he ends up becoming something close to Santana Dotson, I think the Bears fans will be thrilled, and that'll be a definite hit for Ryan Poles in the draft.
5 sacks through 5 weeks. Can't go wrong there. I think here's my reasoning on it, right? This Bears defensive line, to me, the questions remain if Gervon Dexter doesn't change who he is and starts to play at a very high level like we've seen him play this year. We have some questions still on the opposite side of that line. We go, okay, the conversation of the opposite pass rusher for Montez Sweat is still here. We've seen Billings take a step forward. We've seen Dexter take a step forward. That conversation has really been nullified with what you've been able to get out of Darrell Taylor. In my mind, that's Gervon Dexter improving the situation that he's been in. what we've seen in Philly, where Jalen Carter, who hasn't registered a sack yet, but that's not always the important stat from the interior defensive lineman at that position, doesn't seem like he's having that same level of impact. Can't be out there nearly as many downs as Gervon Dexter can because they don't play him as much on the rundowns and things like that. To me, that is, I don't know if it's a step back, but the situation around him is not as perfect as we thought it was maybe coming into the season. And it seems like that is caused him to struggle a little bit early on.
Well, I think Philadelphia is kind of a struggle altogether.
100%.
I think they're at a crossroads as an organization, and as a team. And the individual talent is still the individual talent.
Yes.
How much is Gervon Dexter responsible for the fact that the Bears are not first in the run this year? That's facet that when you take a look at the Bears defense, you could look at one facet of this team, and they have struggled mightily compared to what they've been able to do last year. Not only in the average amount giving up rushing per game, but also in the yards per carry that they're giving up.
Right.
So, one could sit there, if I was going to be critical and I wanted to take a look at our defense, I could sit there and look at that. But I mean, and that'd be like somebody from Philadelphia that wanted to look at this and wanted to be critical of the Chicago Bears. All right. I think ultimately at the end of the day, it's points given up.
Right.
It's not yardage, and it's pressure, not necessarily always sacks. Because say Gervon doesn't get in on a couple of those sacks, but he's got the pressure, and he's only got 2 sacks. But we know the amount of pressure he's been able to put on a quarterback.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's great when you take the next step and you get those sacks, and that's absolutely fantastic. But I think when you go to individual talent and you compare the two, the ceiling that Jalen Carter has compared to Gervon Dexter, I think the ceiling for Jalen Carter is still higher. And he's achieved more, even if it was last year, not necessarily this year.
Yeah.
And we don't want to go crazy through 5 weeks of the season and say, oh, look at this and what. No, because we got 12 more weeks left in the season,
right.
or 13 more weeks. We got 12 more games for everybody, at the very least. So that's, what I take a look at. So you can't make declarations. You can't make statements. At the end of the year,
I can bang the drum a little
we
louder.
could go take a look and we could say, okay, how'd they play over the course of a 17-game season?
Yeah.
And then did he backslide for the whole season? And did Gervon Dexter's level of play continue throughout the season? And then you'll be able to draw some conclusions. But let me tell you, I thought last year there were enough signs where I could identify and say, yes, he's going to be a player. Yes, he's going to be a player. So fortunately for him, that started to happen.
You brought up the step back in the run defense production.
Yep.
I've asked this a couple of times, but kind of just like out in the wind, but you've been in there. We've seen Andrew Billings change the type of player that he was. He was more known as this run stuffer, the guy that's going to be the big guy in the middle that you're not running through me. And now we've seen him become one of the best, not only defensive interior pass rushers, but one of the best pass rushers in general in the NFL as far as how pass rush win rate and different things like that are going. Does the fact that Andrew Billings has kind of changed his game to you lead to some of the differences in the rush numbers this season than what we saw last season? Because he was a big part of that last year.
They gave up a couple of big runs this year.
Yeah.
So if you take a look over the course of 25 games, they've probably had 110 rushes against them. You give up 38-yarder, you give up another one to Taylor. That's another. That ends up raising that average. That ends up raising the amount per game
100%.
usually. So Chuba's run, right?
38 yards.
Chuba's run. Yep. Who's to blame for that? Did you break it down? Did you look at the all-22? Did you get a gander at it?
I got a gander at it. The defensive tackle, I think it was Billings on that, was holding on a little too long on that one.
Nope. He was a backside 3 on that play. So the play went to the left. They did a fold block in the center. The new kid, Chris Williams.
Chris Williams was who it was. That's
he didn't fight any pressure.
Yeah.
What do you have to fight pressure with? Pressure. Fight pressure with pressure. You can't just sit there and be absolutely pinned on the line of scrimmage. Our guy Billings, who I love,
right?
You know that,
right?
Man after my own heart, stout and powerful. Almost gets double scooped. So the guard comes straight at him, pops him. The tackle comes around and is in front of him. So he's double scooped. The one is pinned. He's got to go a long way to pass the nose tackle to try to make the play from the far 3. But the fact that Williams is pinned, they fold the center around, get up on Edwards. The guard that popped Billings gets on Edmonds.
Right.
And there you go.
It's to the house.
And the left tackle stepped out, blocked DeMarcus Walker, who had set up shop about 15 yards outside, because that is the want for our defensive ends for some crazy reason, is to get way the hell outside. So that guy goes out and just hits him, and he's pinned. And now the next thing you know, Brisker or Gordon or whoever's the defensive back out there, they've got their gap. They can't cover every gap. And by the time they realize the can I say shit show?
Yeah.
The shit show that is there on the line of scrimmage, by the time he realizes that, Chuba Hubbard is past him and gone and prancing into the end zone. So 91 gets pinned. 97 is not slow off the ball, but he's slow to react, or he doesn't. If he presses into the guard and squeezes the guard down the line of scrimmage, Tremaine Edwards isn't blocked.
Right.
Okay. He's not blocked, but he let the guard go. The tackle got in front of him. Guard free release on Edmonds. The fold and the center is up on TJ Edwards. And the next thing you know, you got a perfect storm of crap. And you've got a 36-yard touchdown happening to you after that. So I think there's been a couple of big plays that has kind of skewed that a little bit. And Chuba Hubbard, if he didn't trip and fall, would have had another one.
Yes.
But he tripped and he fell in the hole. Nobody touched him. He fell in the hole. So wide open, he panicked. And his legs all of a sudden didn't work.
He pulled the Mitch?
Yeah, so I mean, so that's part of the reason, I believe. Plus, you played the Colts, and the Colts are just a dominant offensive line.
Yeah.
If you saw the way they went after our guys were there; they were fine. But Quentin Nelson's a monster.
Absolutely.
You know, so you're going to go up against some offensive lines that are pretty good. That you're probably going to have one of those games where you give up over 100 yards, and then there's other games where you're not going to play an offensive line that is that dominant, and that's what's going to happen.
It's so funny too, because it's felt like, as the offense has gotten better, you've seen those numbers kind of go the other way. You take away that 38-yard run by Chuba Hubbard, he had 12 carries for 57 yards the rest of the day. That's what you expect out of this Bears defense more times than not. And it just feels like
12 for 57, even then, is 615. What is it? 5.5? 5.5
yards.
That's not what the average last year. The average 3-point-something last year per carry. You know what I'm saying? It looks decent only because the frequency of runs is not that high, but the per carry average is a disappointment.
Right.
So, it's like what they did last year, but it's not what they did last year. Last year, if there were an additional 12 carries, the guy would have had 40 yards.
Right.
And that's 3-point-something. And that's what you expect from the Bears defense, or at least that's what they gave you last year. So even if you take the 136-yarder away, they're still not playing like they played last year, as far as it comes to defending the run. But as long as they're not giving up points, it doesn't make a difference.
Right.
I don't mind if you want to run a little bit more. I don't mind, as long as you're not getting to the end zone and as long as you're not scoring points. That's why anybody that would make that argument, I mean, just something you can notice, I'd say, yeah, but the team overall and the team as a whole is still playing better, even though the one facet of the defense may be a little bit, hit, may have gotten jilted a little bit.
Yeah, it's turned into a real bend but don't break defense. I mean, you can,
and that's fine. And when you get takeaways, it's even better.
Yeah,
bend but don't break, but we'll take it away from you. It's even better.
I was looking at this. The last time the Bears didn't have a multi-turnover game was right before we played the Raiders last season. That's the last game that the Bears didn't have a multi-turnover game. Since then, they have been dominant.
A lot of free wings for Buffalo Wild Wings happening. You got to collect that Wednesday. 6 wings every time the Bears defense forces a turnover. So if they get a turnover in the game, boom, doesn't matter if it's 1 or 3 or 5. You get 6 free wings. So make sure you get the Buffalo Wild Wings.
See, I didn't even know this.
Redeem that. Yeah,
I got to get in on that.
That's the football fest.
See, I almost got excited there. I thought it was 6 wings a turnover.
No,
I was like, you telling me there's a 24 pack out there?
Well, listen, I go out. And I order 15 every time we're at a football fest. Yeah, probably invariably eat 10. So I'm telling you go out there for a 6, you upgrade it to a 10, you get 6 free, you pay for 4. You can't beat that.
Yeah, you're having a great day.
You're
having a great day.
Can't go wrong.
Does it feel like this team has more of an identity now, Jurk? I feel like coaching-wise, it feels like there's an identity with our head coach that is now being passed down to the players, especially on the defensive side.
Does everybody have a nice haircut?
There are a lot of nice haircuts up
Because
there.
I thought that was the identity of our team when I watched that stupid show on HBO at the beginning.
Well, that's a whole.
Got a nice haircut.
That was me and you were kind of on the same side on that, Jurko. I'm not gonna lie. I said it's the training camp Hard Knocks. We've seen 15 minutes of training camp in 6 episodes.
So I don't know what people are thinking about the identity of the Bears team is. The Bears' identity is they got a top 8 defense that loves to take the ball away.
Yeah.
And they got an offense that's young and coming up. It's an up and coming young offense with a rookie quarterback and some skilled players positions that are going to have to piece this thing together the best they can and try to find a way to become victorious and learn how to win as you move forward. And, the quarterback play has gone from being, oh, my sweet Lord,
abysmal.
What did we do? to, okay, I think he's making progress and he's figuring this thing out. It's coming to him. It needed to be a little while. It's like when you play canasta or euchre or, whatever. You've got to figure out what the game's all about. When you figure out what the game's all about, then all of a sudden you could play it at a higher level. So I think that's what's happened to our quarterback. He's starting to figure things out and he's starting to play it at a higher level.
Yeah,
which is good.
And to me, it feels like a team, if I was going to say an identity, that can take a punch and starting to punch back. No matter what the scenario is, right? Whether the defense has to be the one to punch. In this game, the offense was the one to punch back. We haven't had a team like that in a long time. Usually we take a punch and we're on the floor.
Now, I guard everything, with what we say. Again, it's only through 5 weeks of the season.
Right.
For this reason only, this schedule has not been tough.
No.
It's the 3rd easiest schedule in the league. You had to make hay early on. And the biggest criticism of the Bears, if they go 6-3 in the first 9, will be they haven't played anybody.
Right.
And that's 100% legitimate and correct. But the luxury for the Bears is they get to learn with a rookie quarterback while their schedule is not as tough. And maybe they build themselves an amount of victories that might not theoretically be real. But as long as in the process of those 9 games in 10 weeks, they're learning how to win. They're learning more about their quarterback. They experience some of the weird things that happen in the NFL, and they become a better, closer team. That's what this is all about. When these guys start playing for each other,
right,
that's the important step they're going to take, because I've seen it. Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, Minnesota, San Francisco. I've seen the schedule.
Yeah.
And, once you get to
the teeth of it.
Yeah, once you get to November, I've seen the schedule. It is a monster schedule, and this team is going to have the confidence it builds early on, and then they're going to get punched in the mouth a little bit more than they've been punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to be resilient. They're going to have to be in games. They're going to have to find ways to win.
But I think that's even that, right? When I look at the second half of the season, I agree with you. A lot more teeth in the second half of this season. You got to be able to take a bigger punch. You've been able to beat the bully that's on your block, but now the guy on the next block has something to say. And you got to take his punch as well.
Right. You're going to be the big fish in the small pond.
Right.
Now you're going to go and you're going to become the little fish in a way bigger pond. And then you're going to still have to be able to fight and scrap and get after it. So,
but defensively, when I look at the fact that 11 straight games of a team that hasn't allowed 21 points or more, 2 of those games are against the teams that you're going to be playing in the Packers and in the Minnesota. Minnesota's in there, but there's a different version of that Minnesota team. They had who was the astronaut? Josh Dobbs.
Yeah. Again, though, it's early.
Yes.
Don't be too quick to judge a team. Philadelphia.
You think that comes back to earth a little bit?
Philadelphia got to 10 wins last year.
Yes.
10 wins. And what did they do? They piddled it down their pant leg last year. Jacksonville got to 8 wins. And what did Jacksonville do? They piddled it down their pant leg and they missed the playoff.
Yeah.
Buffalo was sitting at 6-6. And what did Buffalo do? They won 5 in a row to get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
So all I'm telling people is just relax. Think about what you want to think about what your ball club is. And just know that it's a week in, week out process. We've got 4 months left this year.
Oh, yeah.
We got a long time for this thing to kind of play out. October, November, December, January. And we're going to see what this team is all about. I'm just saying that you can't draw conclusions now.
Right.
You give you some indicators, what it's looking at, what it might be, but you can't draw any conclusions now.
But don't you feel like the defense already seeing some of those tough teams kind of knows what they're going into. They held Jordan Love. Yeah, he had 300 and something yards that day, but 17 points was all he was able to put on the board. We seem to have Jared Goff's number.
But that game was never as close as the score.
No.
That game that the Bears played against the Packers
last 17-9.
The Bears were never in that game.
Yeah.
Never. There was never one point of that game where you had any confidence whatsoever. And so when you're at 17-0, knowing the offense is impotent on the other side, what possibly is the motivation on the other time? We got the lead. Let's just get this thing ground down.
Yeah.
I can't go and look at that game and say, okay, we held them to 17. We were never in the game. And okay, that's positive. It's good because it continues that record on of having games that are 21 points or less. Okay, that's great. And that's fantastic. But each individual game has its own dynamics, its own energy, its own not summary I'm looking for, but its own plot. Every game has its own plot and its own dynamics. And then what happens, at the end when you see the final score, but you could judge the game individually on what it actually was.
Right.
So, yeah, listen, the Bears defense is playing well. I said they're a top 8 defense,
100%.
and they'll fluctuate in the top 8 all the time, depending upon who they play and who they don't play. They got a pass rush. When they didn't feel good about the team, they went out and they got Taylor and they got Chris Williams, and the Booker kid has been in there enough. Now, the Booker kid's just a pass rusher. That's it. He's not a complete football player by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, if they tell him to go out there, pin your ears back, and go after the quarterback, he's got a skill set. If he's got to go out there and he's got to play the run and the pass, he's a little bit hesitant, which you would expect with a first-year player who was drafted in the 4th or the 5th round, whenever they ended up.
After Troy Taylor there, you're
right.
5th round.
Yeah. Hey, you finally had a good game.
1 out of 5.
Well, he finally had one. At least he had one, I mean, I looked at his stats at the beginning and saw him ranked about 27th, 28th, and I'm like, ooh. What happened from the kid down under? What's going on?
The punter down under.
But he had his game, so good for him.
Special teams player of the week.
For one reason or another, Ryan Poles likes to trade second-round draft choices, and this is the second punter he's drafted in 3 drafts. So I don't get it.
This is true. I didn't even think about that. He did draft the first dude. I forgot him. I forgot about that.
What was his name? Turner Gill?
Trenton Gill. Trenton Gill. Drafted him, but at least he drafted him in the 7th.
Yeah. So, there's a handful of things over the course of time you get to see as maybe a little bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit of a
pattern.
A
little bit of a pattern.
Yeah, we got a pattern.
Yeah, he's got a pattern. I don't expect us to go into this year's draft with 2 second-round picks.
Yeah.
I think that we do end up probably trading one of those as we head into the trade deadline.
Yeah. And this I'll say about Caleb. Caleb will be a better quarterback next year when he starts game 1 than he was this year starting game 1.
Yes.
He's already much better in game 5 than he was in game 1. And I imagine by game 12, he'll be a lot better too. And but he gets uncomfortable in the pocket when he knows he's been there too long. It
kind of freezes up a little bit.
I would play that film of him trying to find a way out where he went 12 different directions. He spun in a circle, like that was going to be something magical that happened for him. But all the guys got their blocks. And then he is just looking for a way out, and he can't make a decision on how to get out of there.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping at some point that becomes a little bit more natural, and he gets to feel where that slide needs to take place. Where's the hole going to be when the pass rush comes up? Because, man, it just seems like it was constricting. And at that point, he had gotten out the back door, scrambled right, and just dumped the ball onto the right side. So the play went for nothing. It was no big deal. But watching him in there, just
trying to find something.
Well, it wasn't looking downfield anymore. Now he's just trying to find a way to get out. And it was 1, 2, 3, 4, spin, boom, boom, back door, boom, and get out and just throw the ball away. So
I like the fact that he can get out, though. I like the magic of him getting out.
Eventually.
Yeah.
But how long it took for him to finally get out was a little bit concerning.
He does. He definitely fits the bill of a guy that is looking to throw the football and does not want to sit there and scramble week in and week out.
Well, sometimes the best plays you can make is just a chance to run and get a first down.
Yeah.
Biggest play in the Super Bowl is Patrick Mahomes running the ball. It wasn't him throwing the ball.
Absolutely.
It was Patrick Mahomes running the ball.
Yeah.
And whether you like it or not, if they're taking away what you're looking at and there's a positive play to be made and it's got to be with your feet, then make the positive play with your feet.
Right.
Yeah.
I like the growth that we've seen out of Caleb. Do you Do you look at how good he's been versus the blitz, how good he's been under pressure?
Sure.
Yeah. And can you take that and say, when you play better defenses, this will still have an impact?
Well, I always think there's the advantage of the offense when they come with the blitz and you're going after your first pattern and you're in rhythm and you're ready to go at it. I think he's a lot more accurate quarterback throwing to his right than he is to his left. Again, I said he's a better quarterback now than he was 5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to continue to see that. I think he's got much more command of the offense now. I think whatever communications they were having with Waldron, with Caleb Williams, with Mercedes Lewis, whatever those communications were, they've turned out to be positive for the football team.
Yeah.
And maybe you do need to be coached a little harder. Most of the, Coughlin always said something. He goes, believe it or not, he goes, athletes crave direction and they crave discipline because they're animals to that. That's what they have grown up with all the time. So you do want discipline. You do want accountability out there. So whatever they need to get, whatever messages need to get got across, have gotten across, and you've got a 2-game winning streak now against the Rams, and you can make it 3 against Jacksonville, have a nice week off, and then you come back. I think it's Arizona.
Yeah.
And then you got Washington.
No, you come back after Jacksonville, Washington. And then
so you got the bye
Arizona,
week.
Yeah.
You go out to Washington, and then you shoot out to Arizona. Washington's going to be a tough game. That's going to be a good test.
I'm going to be excited about that.
That'll be the game of the week.
Yes.
When Washington and the Bears match up, hopefully at that point, the Bears are going to be 4-2. And it's going to be the 4-2 Chicago Bears going up against the whatever Washington Redskins. Could be 4-2, could be 5-1. Whatever it is, that's what the matchup that week. That matchup is going to be a key matchup.
Yeah.
We might be able to stay away from Jonathan Vilma. Oh my sweet Lord. Oh, and the cut play where Kramer got called for the clipping play.
Yeah.
Well, you can't do that. Why? Why can't you do that? I mean, just a basic concept, if you knew nothing about the rules, is outside the tackle box.
Yes.
Now, Doug Kramer would have to hit him, actually make contact for there to be a penalty.
Yes.
But you can't do that. Does not explain anything to me. I hope we could stay away from Vilma the whole year. Whoever was with him was trying to build his.
He was trying to hype him up.
He was trying to hype him up like, well, this guy does know something about football. We're just not hearing it. You were this and you were that and you were that. What can you tell me about this? Well, you
can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. I've seen this.
The?
I've seen it one other time. And we got to a point where because we were doing the watch party and stuff like that, we just muted the TV because we were like, all right, it's distracting. It's bad and it's distracting.
And if you could delay the TV and play the radio call,
it would be perfect.
And sync that up.
With Joni.
And with what you got nowadays, you can delay it.
Yes.
And you got to do a count, and then you got to click it back on.
Right.
And
just get it synced up perfect.
Just get it synced up.
Yeah.
At least a little bit where it's perfect.
But
my God.
The only time when he said that, I literally went, this is like when who was the Bulls coach? Jim Boylan. They put Jim Boylan on NBA TV one time. He was breaking down a Chicago Bulls game. And he said, here's the play right here. You see, they throw this down to the forward. That's a small forward. He's got his back to the basket. Little footwork, turn around, makes the bucket. That was the end of it. Yeah. That was the end of it. That was the end of the breakdown.
But it's also the TV. The TV is showing me that.
Yes. What am I seeing?
What don't I see that I should be seeing?
My favorite part was him going, that's a small forward.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. My heavens. I thought it was a center.
Right. But no, just give us the nuance. What you need there is the nuance. I can see what's happening.
Yeah.
Don't tell me what's happening.
You can't
tell me the nuance.
You can't do that. Was great.
Well, you don't get it out of Vilma.
Oh man.
So otherwise, I think
through 5 weeks. Where's your assessment of this team? Where do you think this team is heading towards?
I predicted 11 victories at the beginning of the season. I still believe 11 victories is very possible. So I have not wavered off of that.
Yeah.
The Indianapolis Colts game pisses me off. That's the one that pisses me off.
But I believe preseason you had Rams as a win for the Rams, and the Bears get that one because of the injury. And
I don't know exactly. I thought the Rams were going to be a tougher team.
Yes.
But the Rams were not a tougher team. But it doesn't matter. The Indianapolis, so you catch a break by not catching a great Rams team. So you
mess up the Indianapolis
but
game.
you did screw the Indianapolis game up. You screwed it up. That's not a good team.
Yeah.
And you lost to a team that's not very good.
Yeah.
So maybe the fact that they could establish the run and they have a powerful offensive line allowed them to not have to, their strength matched up against the Bears' strength, and they were a little bit better than the Bears in strength to strength. Their defense stunk, but at that point we weren't ready. I guess we weren't ready to do something against them. So that's the one that'll come back. If something comes back to haunt me, it's going to be that Colts game.
That's going to be the one. So you got them still 11 wins. They've got 5 more weeks until we get to division. How many of those games do they get, and how many division games do you get?
Well, they're either going to be 6-3 or 7-2.
I like that.
So they're going to sweep those. But it's
then
hard for me
the last 8 weeks getting 4 wins.
They've already lost 2 games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they lost week 2 and week 3.
Right. So they've lost 2 road games. They got to find a way to win some road games. So I'm anticipating them playing Washington very well. And then Arizona, if this team's going to do anything, they're going to have to learn how to win on the road.
Yeah.
So those are 2 opportunities. I think realistically 6-3 after 9 is what you're going to have.
It's a great place to be.
I thought there'd be 7-2 after 9. I thought that's the way the schedule's set up.
Right.
I don't think New England is as good as anybody thinks they are now with Jacoby Brissett at the quarterback. And if they end up going to their backup quarterback, I think they're really going to struggle.
Who, Drake May?
Yeah. I think they're really going to struggle. Washington's the test. I think they can beat Arizona in Arizona. So, but we'll see how they play against Washington. The problem is you play Washington first, you said?
Yeah.
If you beat Washington, then you're so high and you're feeling so great. Now you get on the buggy, you go out to the desert, and then there's a natural lull.
Right.
There's just a natural lull. So who's going to be the player? What unit's going to be the one that comes out there after that natural coming down party that's going to kick it back up and get the gusto going and have himself a ball game that's going to get everybody else into it? Because not that it's a trap game or anything, but it is just a natural, God, we're going to play the Washington Redskins. It's 4-2 against 4. Man, this is going to be maybe a preview of the NFC Championship game. That's the kind of shit you might hear.
That's what we're going to hear there.
Yeah. So, that's the excitement that's going to build for that game. Then you're going to go, we're playing the Arizona Cardinals. They got Marvin Harrison. Who cares? That kind of thing.
You can't sleep on that offense. Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride, James Conner. If Kyler Murray, now the one thing
I got to do is look at their offensive line. If their offensive line is good, then I've got worries.
Yeah,
because the strength of the Bears is their defense, and if the offensive line can handle the defensive line, they're going to cause problems to the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, it's going to be that. The one safe space that we may be in is right before that game. Mm-hmm. Call of Duty comes out, so Kyler Murray may be a little bit occupied.
Well, let's hope so.
Yeah, he may be a little occupied.
Minecraft,
a little Minecraft.
Kids playing Minecraft nowadays.
What do you know about Minecraft?
My kids used to play Minecraft all the time.
You getting in on a little Minecraft?
No, my game was Crash Bandicoot.
Ooh, okay, Yerk. A little PS2 action.
Yeah, I love Crash Bandicoot.
I love a little Crash Bandicoot.
Super Smash Brothers.
Can't go wrong with that. Always
an elite. Play Super Smash Brothers and Spyro.
Okay, Yerk, hold on now. Spyro.
That's all. If you think about it, it's all about 04, 05, 06.
Yeah.
In that 3-4 year era, that's when those games came out, and them are the ones that I used to play.
That was when you were in your gamer days, huh?
Well, it's with kids,
yeah.
With kids. The kids were playing, and I'd watch them a little bit, see, and kind of give them a little advice every once in a while. But they always wanted to
bump them out the way, take the control a little bit.
Crash Bandicoot, we'd play like against each other, and they'd always be kicking the crap out of me. Mine was NASCAR '99. That's what I used to play. Flirting with Disaster. Me and Chris Spielman would be in the Cleveland locker room, in the training room. They had it set, not the training room, in the equipment room, and we'd be in there doing Talladega and Flirting with Disaster. Beyond Flirting with Disaster, and then Spielman would be on the outside, and we'd fight over who got Dale Earnhardt, because Earnhardt was still alive.
He was unbeatable in that one?
No, but it's the man in black.
Yeah.
It's the man in black. And so whoever got him, and then we just work each other up the track, smash one into the wall, and then take off. And I'm like, Dad, you said you were going to smash me into the wall. But even when you come back live, you'd always be able to catch up.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to maneuver. And then the low guy usually was the guy that couldn't get smashed. But if you drove him up the track just a smidge,
just a little bit,
took some of the air off that back, the back spoiler, take some of that air, lighten his load, he's going to have to go. He's going to have to let off and go up the track.
I love this. Video game breakdowns with Jurko. I've missed having him on the pod so much. We got to get up out of here. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. As always, man, for the good kid, John Jurkovic. It's your boy, Pat the Designer, back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear Don, one love. Peace.